Now please welcome your moderator, Pulitzer Prize winning columnist for the Washington Post, Kathleen Parker.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, but I have to correct you on that. I'm actually Sally Jesse Raphael. I just wanted to get that out of the way right away. I also wanted to say that in addition to being a columnist, I am a comedian. And so when I got the call, you can imagine how excited I was. And so first thing I did, I called my son. I said, John, you're not going to believe this. They finally did the word's out. And so he raced over right away, and he says, he said, Mom, what's really going on? And I said, well, I'm going to moderate this panel. And he said, uh-huh. He said, Mom, don't try to be funny. I said, well, John, I don't have to try because I am funny. And he said, Mom, your humor is not exactly cutting edge. So I just wanted to get that out there tonight, because but for that scorching, soul-crushing send-off, I would have been funny tonight, okay?
Do it anyway.
Okay, well, we got some funny people here with us, so I don't have to be funny. We've got some great, great women here. I'm so impressed. Their resumes. I'm going to introduce them all individually and let them make an opening statement, but first I'll tell you just a few things. First of all, in front of every one of these women, just insert the words award-winning, best, and what's the other one? Gorgeous. Gorgeous. We're not simply beautiful, they're gorgeous. Okay. First we have, also we have a lot of books among these women. So we've got, the blonde lady on the end. You may recognize her. Terrorist author Ann Coulter. She has written a disgusting 11 books, bestsellers, all of them, and is about to come out with another. Am I right?
Yes, you are.
Okay, well.
In Trump we trust.
There we go.
Pluribus awesome.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, we'll come back. And next to Ann Coulter, we have Dr. Carol Swain, she is the author of 6 books and about to come out with yet another, and that title will be what?
I think it's abduction, something about exposing the plan of secularists to steal out the souls and minds of our children. We keep going back and forth, so I'm not sure.
I'm really good at titles.
You got to work with Ann on the one-word title. Yeah. Just say abducted. That'll get them.
Abduction.
Abduction, okay.
Abduction.
She's also a political science and law professor at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt University is, at the moment, upset with her. They routinely issue press releases saying, we really have nothing to do with this woman. Because she says unpopular things, or, speaks her mind, and when they feel that it's necessary, they correct the record that they have nothing to do with this free-thinking stuff. And then over here, on my immediate right, is Janice Adams.
But your left. Speak
But your left.
Your left.
Yeah, I can never do that unless you have a mirror out there. Okay. All right, so Dr. Janice Adams is, 11 books here, okay? 11, how many? 7, 11?
0. I did not approve this introduction. It's okay. I'll have one out this fall, next fall, and Ann will write the title.
Well, it's better than writing one that nobody noticed, okay? Let's just put it that way.
She is birthing a book. I know. She told me she's birthing a book.
Okay, well, let's get right to the reproduction, women's reproduction right away. Anyway, Dr. Adams is an amazing person. She's done everything in the world, including she was a reporter way back when, before most of you were born, and did amazing. No, she's not. Not to mean she's old, just she's experienced, like me. Okay. Whew. Sorry. And then we have Sally Kohn, whom you know apparently. She doesn't write any books. She's a commentator. She's, wait, I got to read this to you. This is amazing. She is, Mediaite named her one of the top 100 most influential pundits on television. Okay, so that's cool, because I'm not in there. Because And then The Advocate named her 35th most influential LGBT person in the media. So I'm wondering, what do you have to do to get 34?
Well, I'd like to just be clear. It's the 35th most influential LGBT person, because if we were actually just going by gayest, I like to think I'd rank a lot higher.
Okay, the topic of the evening, as you may have heard, is conservatism bad, hostile toward women? And this is important, obviously, in the context of the current presidential election. We have an actual woman running. You may have heard of her. And we have an actual woman hater running against her. But I'm going to let Ann Coulter correct me on that record. So we'll start with her opening statement first.
Well, I'm not really prepared to discuss women. I know nothing about them. I've never written about women. But I have noticed that the Republican Party is the party, the only of the two parties, that treats women as sentient human beings and not as a vagina on sticks. And thinks, for example, that women care about the economy and care about terrorism. You know, they don't have to run special ads. I mean, you don't see the Democratic Party running on, how will we help men get a prostate exam? Why? Because the Democratic Party acknowledges that men are smart enough to figure out how to get a prostate exam. And if they call up the doctor and he can't do it, they can figure out how to get it some other way. But this is apparently very big with the Democrats in appealing to women because, again, we are vaginas on sticks. One of the things I love about Donald Trump is it's not just with regard to women, but with regard to gays, blacks, Mexicans, whatever. He does not play this identity politics. He does not speak to blacks as blacks or Mexicans as Mexicans, other than he loves Hispanics. My favorite tweet of his of all. He makes fun of identity politics, but what he does say, and I prefer to have audiences boo me, love me, so I promise you I'm not sucking up to you, but for the first time, I kind of hate my own party, the Republican Party, watching their reaction to Donald Trump, which is to say, I secretly suspected that the Republicans, like the Democrats, only care about the rich and only care about Wall Street, but I didn't know it until Donald Trump ran. And Trump comes along and says, I'm going to care about Americans first. Not blacks, Hispanics, gays, whatever. Americans. Working class, middle class. I'm bringing the jobs home. I'm protecting you. I'm protecting your jobs, your neighborhoods. I'm building a wall. Why? Because I'm going to put your interests first. I would also add that he is the first presidential candidate of either party to say, I'm going to make hedge fund managers pay the same rate as the rest of you. Why is that? He is the first one speaking for Americans, and forget the Democrats, I always knew they were for Wall Street. Republicans know what? Leave the dead wood behind. This is the new Trumpian party, and they do care about women, blacks, Hispanics. They just don't divide you up and do this balkanization of voters. That's my opening statement.
So your answer is no. No, okay. I also wanted to ask you each, as part of your opening statement, to say whether you're pro-life or pro-choice. Because not that we're vaginas on sticks, but reproductive rights is certainly part of what many people in this country feel is wrong with conservatism. That the Republican Party platform in which they describe the pro-life position and think that's the best for the country is viewed by many women as hostile to their reproductive rights. So let's just clear the air with that particular question, if you don't mind.
The single demographic group most in favor of abortion rights is single men between the ages of 18 and 30. Being pro-abortion is not being pro-woman. It is being pro-libertine man. I am pro-life.
Okay, by the way, I'm Switzerland here tonight. So even though I write a political opinion column, I'm not picking sides here. So what? Mike? Hi, Mike. Okay, please.
I am pro-life, and I've not always been pro-life. I was pro-choice most of my life, And I believe that women need information so that they can make informed choices, and that information should include the option of keeping a baby. And so whether we're on a college campus or somewhere else, that they need that as an option as well. I also believe that clinic inspections are in the interest of women and their lives, and you would not have had Kermit Gosnell had there been clinic inspections. And so I don't see how you can be pro-woman and stand in opposition to just common sense regulations.
Okay, well, thank you for that explanation attached to the answer about pro-life. But would you then now give your thoughts about the question? Do you feel like conservatism is hostile to women?
Well, I'm getting away from my statement. No, absolutely not. And I have a statement, that I was asked to write that I can say why I believe it isn't hostile to women. I think progressivism is hostile towards women.
Okay. All right, we'll come back to that. Would you like to give your opening statement?
Wow. Since Anne so vehemently threw down the gauntlet, I will just say that what I so admire about the Republican Party is that they want their hands off government but between a woman's legs. So I'll just leave it there. And, but that is not my opening statement. My opening statement is that not only am I old enough to have, interviewed Mark Twain and but I actually cover the Watergate hearings. So that puts a little shading on it. I honestly, even though we're having a good time, I just feel in terms of my opening that I can't ignore the day on which we're holding this event. That this is the day when Dallas has commemorated its fallen, and the President and ex-president have eloquently commemorated all the fallen, not just the 5. And I think that it's important, and from that level of consciousness, I really wanted, kind of, as I thought about how I was going to present for myself today, I was really thinking, and then I'll, but I was really thinking about, when I counted it up, between the 5 police officers, Sterling and Mr. Sterling and Philandro, there are 10 children who are grieving this week. 10 children who have nothing to do, don't even understand the argument. There's a 4-year-old who saw the man she considers daddy shot to death in front of her eyes. And so while I'd like to be up and glib and have fun, and I really do want us to have fun with this because, I mean, let's face it, Trump is a joke. I would at the same point like to keep in mind the sanctity of what has happened this week. And I'll just say that when I think about it, whether as a woman or as a black person, or as who I am, which is both, I am one of the children who is a pioneer of school desegregation. At 8 years old, I was taken out of the all-black school and put into the all-white school right here in New York City, where we do not talk about this level of intense bigotry in our country. We act as though the North is exonerated and it's only the South that's guilty. And the 4 of us in pioneering for New York were kind of the pioneers, therefore, for Northern de facto rather than de jure desegregation. And after that, I've done all the firsts that one does in terms of desegregation, but I also had the privilege of doing a lot of those firsts as a woman, because we don't think about it, and we should. This isn't women's rights conversation or a gay rights conversation or a black rights conversation. This is a human rights conversation. And the United States has been egregious in its violations of human rights. A lot of the things that happen here, were they to happen elsewhere, we'd be talking about state-sponsored terrorism. We'd be saying we've got to invade. Our pundits would be, revving us all up and saber-rattling, but it's happening here. And I think at a certain point we have to bring our myth and reality together. And I'll just close by saying, because of this issue of the dual consciousness, I am ever mindful, the historian hat in me. March 31st, 1776, smack dab in the Revolution. And who makes the comment? Abigail Adams. So it's nothing new. We know it, and we've had a long time to get this better than we have. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Janice. And now, Sally.
Oh my.
It's Sally Cohn's time to tell us, is conservatism,
All right.
wait, is conservatism,
Yes, ma'am.
is it hostile against women,
Yes.
and why do we care? You get an extra question.
Because I'm a human being. And also, by the way, contrary to what you might have read on the internet, a woman. Some of you are like, let me Google fact check that. Hang on. Let me make 3 general-ish points in response. I actually agree with some of what Ann and Carol alluded to, which is I do think that this isn't just about what's better for women, what's better for black people, what's better for queer people, what's better for... it is actually about, we are focusing on what is better for everyone. And the problem with our politics is for too long it has been focused on what is just good for an elite few. But I do believe, as a whole, that liberalism, progressivism, democratic politics, imperfect though they often are, have been better for all people. More than half of whom happen to be women. We have created twice as many jobs since 1976 under Democratic presidents in this country than we have under Republican presidents. We have, the GDP has been higher, personal wealth has been higher, academic attainment has been higher. On all measures, it is better for all people when we have a Democratic or progressive president. Progressive, maybe we've never had one, but at least a liberal president. Now, that being said, I also want to challenge the point that the Democrats are the only ones talking about identity politics. That's simply not true. That is a misrepresentation that borders on a smear or even a downright lie. Because the fact of the matter is that Republicans have, and by extension conservatives have, for several generations been practicing identity politics. They've just been practicing identity politics vis-a-vis white men. Right. So they have, if you do not think that Donald Trump is not explicitly building his campaign on a white male identity politics, I don't think you're paying attention.
Yeah.
So, right? So, and as far as I can see, the quote-unquote identity politics of the Democratic Party and the left is actually how can we make sure everyone is included in the political project. And so yes, in order to get there, you do have to name those who are being left out. That is different than saying that they should be ahead, right? We are actually talking about making this country better for everyone. And the last thing I would say is that it's interesting, and in particular that you said you haven't written about identity politics or women or whatever, because it was you who wrote back in college that conservatives have a difficult time with women. That was you. And I want you to know, I completely agree.
Well, that's been a while when you have to go back to when I was 18. And it was technically...
Wait, I didn't think it was that long ago.
An article about pornography, which I am not a fan of. It was a socially conservative article. I thought it was a clever title, but good one. Can I respond? Because I do think, I mean, that is just a smear, and the same smear we hear about every single Republican. Oh, white males, white males. It's the happiest comedians. Oh, it's a white male. Can you please move on from that? I mean, you have beaten the horse to death. The horse is dead. We have to drag the horse out of the room. We just stop with the white male stuff. The only guy, and I did not say Republicans don't play it, they do play it. The new Trumpian Republican Party doesn't play it. He does not look at people as
Mexicans or Muslims?
No,
Well,
no.
Or women,
yeah.
Still talking.
or Megan.
And in fact, unlike Hillary Clinton, who pays the women in her office less than she pays the men, Donald Trump has always run female-heavy organizations. He's, as far as I know, the first person to make women foremen of projects here in New York. These women struggling, they're not asking for a handout, not asking, oh, please tell me how to get an abortion. They just want to be treated the same as men. And you know, they're having to be better than men all the time. And who's the one person who says, I'm going to give you a chance, I'm going to make you a foreman? And oh, do they love Donald Trump. What I love about Trump is, including in his attacks, which are very funny, I think he has achieved some sort of platonic ideal of non-discrimination. He will attack a woman's looks the same way he'll attack a man for his looks. He will attack someone with a disability the same way he will attack someone without a disability. And yeah, if Mexicans are the ones coming over illegally, he will attack Mexican rapists coming across the border. You can imagine him appointing a woman Hindu to be the Secretary of Defense if that's the best person for the job, and you can also imagine him having an all-white male cabinet if those are the best people for the job. He does not care, and I love that about him. And to say that he is practicing identity politics is just the same old playbook that we have heard every 4 years against every Republican. Oh, it's for white males. It's the party of theocracy and tax cuts. Not Trump. Oh, no.
Well, he doesn't, yeah. Okay, thank you, Anne, for that. Do we still have to buy your book? Anne, I do want to ask you this. I agree with you completely that, you know, the idea that women are only, as you put it, vaginas and two sticks. It becomes very tiring to constantly have to debate the abortion issue over and over, you know, century after century.
That's fine if the Republicans would just stop trying to undercut the right to abortion, we'd stop debating it.
Well, however, I was about to say that how do you explain Republicans, in fact, do, as Janice said so delicately, seem to be deeply concerned with women's reproductive organs?
I would like to be able to give my statement, and some of that I will address.
Okay, let's hear it.
Me too. I cite Professor Swain in my last book, by the way. I'm a huge fan of hers, so if you haven't read her stuff, you should.
Obviously, I'm a professor, so I have a statement here. And so I was asked to prepare a statement.
I didn't read my emails.
And the question, is American conservatism hostile to women? My response, absolutely not. I believe that conservatism uplifts and empowers women by giving them the support and information they need to make informed choices for themselves and their families. And when I was first invited to appear at a comedy club, I didn't know if I was supposed to be it. and you know, maybe I am it, but I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about important issues, and this is an important issue, and I hope that we will keep it serious throughout. I think humor and laughter, that it's good. The Bible says it's good for the human soul, and knowledge and information is good, and it's truth that sets us free, and debate that allows us to grow spiritually and intellectually. And so I stand before you, or sit before you, as a black woman who was born and raised in rural poverty. I was one of 12. I dropped out of school after completing the 8th grade. I married at 16, had my first child at 17, and then I later earned a high school equivalency, went to a community college, and got the first of 5 degrees. And And I worked while I was in college, and I graduated from the 4-year college, magna cum laude, and I went to Princeton as my first job. I earned early tenure, and now I teach at Vanderbilt. And I think that my experiences, my education, my knowledge qualifies me to speak to a lot of these issues. And I was a Democrat for most of my life. I am a person that has had an abortion. I got an abortion in my early 20s. It had just become legal. And at the time I was married. And I discussed it with my husband, and we decided, I mean, I was going to get my way, and I did get my way. So I had the abortion. And I don't believe I would have done that had it not been legal. And at that time, I was so young and I was so immature that I assumed that if something was legal, it must be okay. But as soon as I got that abortion, I immediately had guilt. And in fact, to such an extent that I actually got pregnant on purpose to have a child, and I miscarried, and I never had a live birth after that miscarriage. And if you know the information about the consequences of abortion, having difficulty carrying a subsequent child to term is one of the side effects that women need to know about. And so I am now a Christian conservative. In 2009, President Bush appointed me, in 2008 he appointed me to 2 positions as an independent, and I started hanging out with Republicans like Ann, and eventually I was converted to the Republican Party, and part of that had to do with the fact that as a professor, I'd always told my students that it was important for blacks to be in both political parties, that if blacks were going to have true power, you always needed someone at the table. And I realized that I wasn't willing to do that, and I wasn't sure why I wasn't willing to do it, but at some point I decided that I was going to bite the bullet and join the Republican Party so that to the extent that reforms needed to be made, I wanted to make it within the party. I also didn't want to tell people to do something that I wasn't willing to do. As a conservative, I have not found that life has been hostile to me, except the hostility that's come from progressives. I found that once I had my Christian conversion experience, once I became a Republican, my whole world changed. Until then, I had been, on the fast track, I would say, in my profession. I've been very successful. But after that, things began to change. I have found that conservatives have been a source of encouragement and support even while I was a Democrat. Conservative values and principles uplift men and women by reminding them that they are unique beings created in the image of God. They are not random accidents.
All right, thank you so much.
Conservatism encourages men and women to develop attitudes and behaviors conducive to success by exercising moral and individual restraint. It encourages them to develop the attitudes and behaviors and practices conducive to a happy life. And it encourages one not to see oneself as a victim who must depend on the government and do-gooders to liberate them. Hard work, vision, and a belief in the American dream were factors in my success and have been factors in the success of many other people. Conservatism has not been hostile to me as a black woman. The oppression has come from the liberals. Conservatives, like liberal women, are not monolithic, as you can see. And they share many of the same goals and aspirations as liberal women. Conservative women are committed to the tenets and beliefs that we once associated with classical liberalism, which is now associated with conservatism. Belief in individual freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association. We believe in limited government, personal responsibility, and Judeo-Christian values and principles. There are some conservatives that are libertarians. They may not believe in this, but at least the ones that I know best believe in Judeo-Christian values and principles as being important to our nation. And if you look at the Republican Party, it was the Republican Party that worked for the abolition of slavery, anti-lynching laws, integration of the federal government, equal rights for women and blacks. And it's been the conservatives who defend and support the rule of law, the free market system, and school choice for the poor. It was Republicans who fought for equality for blacks and women. The first woman to be elected to Congress in 1916 was a Republican who fought for women's suffrage. Republicans sent the first blacks to Congress, and they provided the key leadership and support for the Civil Rights Act of the 1960s. On the other hand, progressives in the Democratic Party have a history of embracing policies that disempower and marginalize ethnic minorities and non-elites. Progressivism has a dark history that many people are unaware of. The roots have been fascist. It's always embraced Darwinian eugenics, and we see that played out today in the policies of Margaret Sanger's Planned Parenthood and the willingness of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg to confess to a New York Times reporter that Roe versus Wade was decided because of a need to control population growth, and particularly in populations that we don't want too many of. That would be my group. We know that blacks and Hispanic women and their unborn children are the primary targets of abortion, with a disproportionate number of clinics located in black and Hispanic neighborhoods. With progressivism, we see contradictions. The same person who believes in unrestricted abortion and euthanasia condemns the death penalty for terrorists, serial killers, and killer animals. The same person who sends his or her child to private schools opposes vouchers and school choice for children trapped in poor performing schools. The same liberals who say they are for women's reproductive rights and choice are staunch opponents to common sense legislation like clinic inspections that would have prevented Kermit Gosnell from operating undetected for so many years. They oppose informed consent, short waiting periods, and the dispensation of information that women need to know about to avoid some of the harmful side effects of abortion.
Okay. Yeah. I don't want to interrupt her because she seems to very much want to finish this up.
Okay, I'm close to the
But we
finish.
do have to get the debate moving along.
I know, but we need to have facts. We don't need to be just...
Okay, well, let's leave
We
it back
do need to
for...
have facts, which is why I'd like to speak.
No, okay, let's calm down, everybody. What do we
We'll give her a chance. Don't worry.
I was told to prepare a statement, and I was under the impression that I would have at least 10 minutes to give it.
Oh, okay, well,
No one likes to hear it.
Okay, let me keep going, please.
Let's come back to it, because I think we do want to move the conversation
Now, this is
forward.
important. This is important.
All right, vote. Do you want to...
I mean...
All right, finish it.
Let her speak.
True choice is giving women the information they need to protect themselves from harm. Pregnancy crisis centers and the help they offer women should be among the information given to women.
Okay.
In the area of race, liberal policies that have followed the Civil Rights Acts of the 1960s.
Okay, this is not a debate. I'm sorry. As the moderator, I feel it's my responsibility. Just go ahead and say, I respectfully want you to let some of these other things, but you've made some excellent points, and I think they'll be part of the conversation going forward, so thank you for that. I wanted to ask, I agree with what Carol Swain and Coulter have said, in as much as women are not a monolithic group, and yet we are always asked to talk about the what women's issues are, as though we all have the same concerns. And in fact, most, not all women, as I tried to establish here, are not in favor of abortion and don't feel that that's actually good for women. So
I do.
What progressives, but that's your opinion, okay.
No,
But progressives are not tolerant of conservative women's points of view when it differs from what is considered right for all women. And that is determined by the liberals and the Democratic Party most of the time.
I disagree with that totally. It's not that I disagree with their points of view, which I do. It's I disagree with the imposition of their point of view on me.
Okay.
That's the distinction.
Fair point.
Okay. So, and I listened to Carol, and what is being characterized as fact is just, you know, I mean, could fill a fiction library. But I just want to speak straight away to the issue because I am a school desegregation pioneer. And so the whole issue of schools is very important to me. It's personal, as well as I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother. So that's my woman's point of view on that. But when you say something about people who send their children to private school, which I did, not wanting vouchers for people who can't afford it, it's because I sent my children to private school that I know that a $3,000 voucher will not cover an $18,000 tuition. And it is because I am a school desegregation pioneer that I spent really not only time living Brown versus Ed, but I've actually taken the time to read Brown versus Ed, which is something that we really should do. Because what it does is that it says that it is only for public schools. So this drive to say, well, we can deal with private schools and then they'll have a voucher, what we're saying is that as opposed to, and I do think that I sent my twin daughters, who are here in the room, to private school so they can tell you how wrong or right I was after this. It is because I did that and made that choice, and people have come at me and said, how could you send your daughters to private school when, you know, you were out there, you're a symbol of public school? Well, I'm a symbol of quality education and access to quality education. And it has nothing to do with public or private, or it should have nothing to do with public or private. I just want...
So, all right, Sally,
can I also, can I also... Oh, sorry, do you...
No, go ahead. By the way, I want you all to feel like you can jump in when you want to.
I just want to address this issue of reproductive freedom. First of all, I'm not going to disagree with your characterization, Kathleen, that there are some on both sides of the debate who are not as respectful of the other perspective as they should be. I hope we can all agree.
What they have to say.
Okay, well, I don't. But I'm talking. I'm saying with particular respect. In other words, I would like to be able to respect your. I would like us all. I do. I would like us all to respect your position opposing abortion. I would like you to respect mine in favor of choice. And my issue, which to build on what Jana said, is when we do not allow, when the party that is supposedly for personal responsibility and limited government does not allow women to make these choices. Now let me be clear. I would be I'm not allowed to curse, am I, because we're on C-SPAN. I would be super flippin' happy if we could stop talking about reproductive freedom, and by the way, birth control, and I would be friggin' thrilled. But unfortunately, like I would love to be talking about jobs, but unfortunately, the Republicans in Congress, their first 5 pieces of legislation they introduced, their first day in Congress, their first term in Congress, controlling Congress, was 5 anti-abortion bills. Last year they voted 8 times to defund Planned Parenthood. This week, they introduced a bill. There is a bill being debated, a Republican-introduced bill, that would make it that would say that if an employer does not support not only same-sex marriage, but say marriage out of wedlock, that he can fire an employee for that. That if you are a hotel or a lodging and you don't want to rent to a single mom, you don't have to. So this is not us bringing this up over and over again. This is us defending basic freedom and choice, which I thought Republicans stood for.
Well,
I just want to just finish one other thing, and then Carol, I see you want to speak, but to your point about the Republican Party, let's stop this nonsense about the Republican Party being the party of Lincoln. It hasn't been the party of Lincoln since it became the party of Goldwater. So let's at least be honest about that. It completely flipped. The Republican Party that was the party of Lincoln had Black people who were the first elected Congress people, and up until the mid-1970s, there were more black people in Congress in that era, post-Civil War, than there were in the modern era. But that was not the party of Lincoln. The party of Lincoln is more like was a progressive institution in its time. That's what it was. In contrast, the party of Goldwater has been the conservative party, and I think at a certain point we have to ask the question, I don't want to hear any more buzzwords, I don't want to hear any more spin, but what is it that Republicans want to conserve?
Well, there are two things.
Our country, as Donald Trump said.
Okay, well, we have a country, and it's doing very well. Thank you very much.
You don't think it is doing very well. You don't think it is doing very well. You said something that I think is part of this idea that we're the ones imposing on you. You want people to stop talking about abortion. Let us vote. We're not allowed to vote because of the blessed opinion of Roe v. Wade. Well, because the fetus doesn't get a vote. That's why.
But it's my
You want them to Congress to stop passing laws. I happen to not think abortion is a federal issue, but the blessed decision of Roe v. Wade made it a constitutional right, which means Congress can rule on it. And as long as they can't say the states can decide, they're going to try to chip away at it little bit by bit. And really, of all the impositions, the imposition of the Chinese-style brainwashing grade K through 13 that America is the worst country on earth and we could be classified as terrorists. Well, you're in for a surprise, audience, when this country becomes more like the ones that throw gays off buildings, that have clitorectomies, that engage in honor killings, where child rape is a way of life.
What about the countries that
started slavery still engage in slavery and did not fight a war in which 600,000 white men died to preserve the principle that all men are born equal? This constant running down of this country, you have no idea how good you have it, women of America.
So wait a second, whoa. Can I just say, wait a second. Can I just say, I love this country. I love this country. This is a great country. This is not, excuse me, did someone just say, no, you don't? That is outrageous, and that's offensive. No, I'm sorry, but excuse me, we can disagree about what's best for the future of this country and still love this country, right? We can also say we support women and disagree about policy for women. So don't even go there. That's beyond the pale.
I was responding to Janice, who said some things so don't act like I'm responding to something you said. This is the problem with having 2 and 2. I was responding to Janice. If she wants to say something to what I said, it's her turn now because I was attacking what she said.
I defer to Sally because we just interrupted her.
Well, okay, then the answer is not, I never said that.
No,
That's not an answer because your co-panelist did say that. Your co-panelist did say that.
Not you.
So don't answer, I never said that. I'm not responding
to
you.
Can I ask a question? I have a question, which is, until the 1980s, the Supreme Court didn't think that the Second Amendment applied to the individual right to bear arms.
That's not true.
No, it actually, it is, and even the NRA for the first almost 100 years didn't advocate for, it actually supported gun control. But regardless, I'm just curious if you find that to be an imposition. It is true. I'm curious if you find that to be an imposition in the same way as Roe versus Wade.
All right, let's just stop for 1 minute, and we're going to pause and let Carol Swain comment.
As far as abortion and reproductive rights, as long as more black babies are aborted in New York City than are born alive, that will be an issue that people like me will care about. And when it comes to the parties, Janice, you say they flipped sides?
Of course they did.
No, they did not flip.
Yes,
because
they did.
The Democratic Party is the party that if the Republicans were pushing abortion on blacks the way Democrats are, it would be called genocide.
Carol,
and so there are other ways that the Democrats
no
have
conversation about abortion in 1868.
All right, this is the problem.
No, they were killing them in other ways. The Democrats are still killing blacks.
We don't want to
Democrats
talk
killed
about
blacks
abortion
then, they're
I
killing them
don't want
now.
to talk about
Don't.
abortion.
Democrats are
at
killing
all.
blacks now,
Okay, this
and
is
you
the
all are
problem.
standing by idly participating in it.
All right, excuse me, I'm going to interrupt here. So here's the problem with abortion. It's a very emotional issue, it's a divisive issue, and we can't ever agree either side.
No.
And it would be very lovely if it had not gone to the Supreme Court as it did, because I am so sick of it. I'd like it to be taken off the federal level, personally. And I said I would certainly like to see it removed from the Republican Party platform. And I said this in New York a couple of years ago. I was speaking on a panel with a room full of mostly all Republicans, mostly men. And when I made that statement, yeah, well, I'm gonna, I'm taking a break from Switzerland. But this is a preface. This is a preface.
She's Swish, okay, guys? She's Swish.
Everybody seems to know how I ought to be doing this,
Thank
but
you.
I'm going to finish my sentence.
One laugh.
All the women applauded, and none of the men did. So it's a lost. We can't reach a consensus here tonight. So let's move on.
Please.
Let's move
I mean,
on.
yeah, but can I just say,
One last word.
the Democrats do not support I'm not even going to repeat it because I don't want the soundbite, but let's be clear. I also do not want black women and white women and Latina women dying in back alley abortions. I want them to have the freedom to make choices about their own bodies, their own economic choices, their own social choices in their lives. And again, without just as you did, without any, and by the way, to have choices to not feel that they're pressured into those decisions.
I would
for
not
economic
have
and
aborted
social
my
reasons. So,
baby. I would
end
not
of
have
discussion.
aborted my baby if I had had informed consent, if I'd actually known that government can be trusted to make good decisions for people.
All right, never mind, you're right. My point is not, all right, let's move on.
No.
Choice, that's it.
Let's move on.
No more abortions. Okay, we're all finished.
moving on, Farrah.
We're all finished. All right, so let's get back to the presidential election and how the question applies to that. All right, so I would like to ask Ann Coulter to explain how she can be so much in favor of Donald Trump, given the comments he's made about women and to women that are not politically incorrect, they're just rude, and they suggest a certain misogynistic bent. But you know him, and I don't. So maybe you can explain to women why they should vote for him.
Well, I really only know him since that fantastic Mexican rapist speech. And that won my heart, and I've never gone back. Look, I mean, you can go back to things which I'm sure the Democrats will be doing. Every time he appeared on the Howard Stern show, apparently, you see, there's some fans for Howard Stern. Okay, he'd say politically incorrect, silly things. He wasn't planning on running for president. He was an entertainer then. I love that he's an entertainer. I think he's extremely funny. If you haven't been to one of his rallies, I've sometimes introduced him at rallies. You have to experience it. And it's part of the reason that, you know, anyone who watches him as opposed to people translating him understands, and he says things with a wink and not a snarl. He's like Muhammad Ali bragging about how pretty he is when he talks about how wealthy he is. People, I mean, no one, usually when people brag about their wealth, everyone kind of hates them or growls. The fact that audiences of, 10,000, 30,000 people burst out laughing when he talks about his wealth. And obviously these were jokes he was making, but I think that also makes an important point that he was not running for president all this time. It's funny, people always say they want someone who isn't a politician to run for president. I've always thought it was a bad idea until Donald Trump, because I like that we see him unfiltered, and also that we see, look, he may have changed his positions on some things like abortion, as Professor Swain did, as a lot of people do. That's the purpose of the pro-life movement. We're trying to change people's minds. I don't have any problem with that, nor did I with Romney. But one thing that Donald Trump's life is shot through with, and 30 years ago when he was going on, making rude comments about women that were funny, some would say, if they aren't, anyway, is that he has always cared about the working class. Always, always, always. He's given interviews talking about his rich friends on Fifth Avenue don't really like him, and the people he really gets along with are the working class and the cab drivers. I mean, he grew up working on, okay, the fake laughter is very impressive. That's such a good argument. He grew up on construction sites, which is why he talks the way he does. I mean, one of the problems, I suppose, I've had with him is he has sort of bad grammar. But it's actually very appealing. He talks like a regular guy, and he's always cared more about the working class first. How that translates into specific policies, yeah, okay, those things he will change his mind on. But that is the platform he is running on. Finally, someone who cares about Americans first. And immigration is a huge, huge part of that. The American people have been begging Congress to do something about immigration, I keep hearing my whole life, every 4 years, Republicans are racist, Republicans are racist, Republicans are racist. I never saw any evidence of it until I read Marco Rubio's immigration bill. Not Trump. Whose jobs are hurt the most? Whose jobs are sent? Well, this happens to be the work I was quoting by Professor Swain. Who gets hurt the most by dumping lots of low-wage workers on the country? It is the black community in America. And let me tell you, there are going to be a lot of construction jobs under Trump. We've got to build that wall. We're going to build bridges. It's going to be great. That's why I love Trump. I love him for his policies, and I have gotten acclimated to the personality.
Well, he is entertaining for sure, and I can see that you would appreciate each other's sense of humor. Sally, do you want to respond?
Yes, I do. I mean, I don't know where to start, because honestly, the thing that is jarring, and then to the point that Janice made about just doing this today, after this week, is we are making light of this, and it is just not funny. It's not. Donald Trump is not funny. And I don't want a president who's funny. I don't want a president. By the way, I have a 7-year-old daughter, and I don't want a president who I have to say, no, you can't say what the president said. You can't make that joke. No, that's offensive. That's not okay, right? I mean, this is a non-starter, number one. Number two, I'm sorry, but I love when it's like, oh, Donald Trump, the working people love Donald Trump because Donald Trump says they love him. He also says the Mexicans love him. He also says the Muslims love him. They don't. I don't know which Mexican you've been hanging out with, but all the others
back, and the wages are going up.
All the others.
You got to talk to your maid, Sally.
I mean,
she wants her wages to go up.
Okay, and let's talk about wages. I'm so glad you brought that up. Listen, you're right, by the way. You're right. The Republican Party did create Donald Trump you can be on the panel next time. The Republican Party did create Donald Trump by not passing comprehensive immigration reform, which they once friggin' supported and then decided they would back out on.
You misunderstood me.
I know, but I'm going to say that number two.
By not passing amnesty.
And number two, let's be clear about this. If the issue is that working class people in this country and low-wage workers in this country are not getting sufficient wages, which I agree with, then why not support increasing the minimum wage? Oh wait, Donald Trump said actually the minimum wage is too high and needs to be lower. So I don't understand this friend of the working class thing who not only wants to lower the minimum wage but shipped his own jobs overseas, right? So the guy you're talking about sounds like he could be okay. It just doesn't seem to be the guy running for president.
The simple law of supply and demand. If you impose a minimum wage by dumping more and more low-wage workers on the country, it just creates fewer jobs. We'll get a machine to do that. You know what the minimum wage in Australia and New Zealand is? $15 an hour. Why? Because they control immigration. How about we just have a rule? We'll start bringing immigrants in as soon as we have full unemployment, as soon as the natural minimum wage has risen to $15 an hour. When that's the minimum wage, we can start bringing in low-wage workers. And there's only one politician who has ever said it and meant it, and that is, at least running for president, that's Donald Trump.
Okay, let's turn the tables a little bit. I was just going to turn the tables a bit, and let's give Hillary Clinton some time here. Well, she is the woman running for president. All right,
I don't know.
we're going to be serious. So Hillary Clinton is considered the champion of women. No, I'm just saying on this side. I'm talking this side. Okay, I'm pretty sure y'all don't agree with that. But why is she considered the women's choice? Just because she is a woman? And what is it that she brings to the table that would be good for women if she were to become president? How would it change things for women so that the world is less hostile?
I thought you could have a chance.
I'm always torn about this conversation, but because I don't think that she is the salvation for women and all of that, but I do think that when you have a candidate who has been First Lady, a Senator, and Secretary of State, that she has a few more attributes than just being the primary woman candidate. So therefore, when I look at her career, when I look at, as a woman, the work that she had done, which everybody knows she did, her outreach and the work that she tried to do even when she wasn't successful, but what she tried to do for children and for working families with children, that has always been an important part of her platform. Whether or not she is the be-all and end-all of women, for heaven's sakes, how many men have we had? I just think it's time to break the logjam. I think it's time.
But you would vote for a woman because she's a woman, given her other qualifications.
I would not vote for certain women because they were women, but I would vote for that woman because she is a woman.
Okay, so I'm going to distinguish myself from that argument. I would not vote for Hillary just because she's a woman. One of the many reasons I will vote for her, and by the way, I was a Sanders supporter in the primary. I'm coming around. But as I said then, when I endorsed Senator Sanders, and I still believe now, I still agree with Hillary Clinton on 90%, as does Senator Sanders. And Hillary, I believe, and he said as much. But the reason I support her, if we want to talk about it, from a feminist lens, is not just because she's a woman, although the significance of that in a country that has not had a female president for 270 years is astonishing, right? We've had, people want to bash Islam. 8 Muslim nations have elected female heads of state, and we haven't. So. But also that she supports, that she is strongly pro-choice, that she would be she's the first presidential candidate who has said she would eliminate the Hyde Amendment, which prohibits reproductive freedom. Right, okay, so federal money going to reproductive care. She supports paid family leave. Paid family leave. We are one of the only developed nations that does not have paid leave for men and women. These are basic things: national health care, universal health care, access to college education, improving education. It's what she would do for women, not just that she's a woman.
Supports being respectful to people and not demeaning people because they're Mexican, not demeaning people and considering it a joke because they're female, not making jokes about women's bodies. And I am going to go back to I just don't think, if he's funny, I don't like his brand of humor. I think he is a sociopathic kind of funny. Because while during the civil rights era, and I really do think it should be called the human rights era, if you can't live past a lynching, then you don't have any civil rights to have.
The Democrats opposed every anti-lynching law.
The Southern Democrats did, and people like me, whose families were actually, I should say this, my family was Republican, as many black families were in the North. Republican, because we were considering ourselves the bloc against the Southern Dixiecrats. So it was a very different Republican Party at that time. You don't have the only handle on what it means to be a Republican. There are other kinds of Republicans, and unfortunately, if we ask Olympia Snow and Lincoln Chafee and other Republicans why they're no longer in Congress, we may have an idea of the Republicans who are being pushed aside by this kind of attitude.
All right, and there was also Tanya, what was her name? Tanya, we spoke about this earlier. Tanya
Yeah.
Mitchell, who wrote the Republican War Against Women. That was her that was the title of her
The famous
memoir.
Tanya Mitchell. I'll
Yeah.
never forget her.
Well,
But it's
she's
not
kind of
about
like
her.
Tanya
It's
Mitchell.
about
she's kind of like St. Kathleen Parker, I think. But
It's not about that.
hold
We
on.
always have these ridiculous nobodies stepping
Well, no,
foot. The Republican war on women. I've never heard of Tanya Mitchell.
No, she was involved in Republican politics.
Yes, huge. Who could forget her?
Only people who look things up, I guess, but would know who she
Yes.
is. But no, I was going to actually say something about the war on women that really was kind of a trope from the Democrats.
You're not going to ask us about Hillary?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, please, go ahead. I thought you were...
Don't deny them their joy.
I want to say to this group over here to keep it civil, please. I know, but try hard. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I don't think that we should vote for any candidate just because they happen to be black or a woman or they're going to make a historical first. We should be seeking the best qualified candidate. And in the case of where our nation stands today with so much chaos and the breakdown of the rule of law that we have seen with the Obama administration, and we have Hillary Clinton with a history of lies, more lies. She should be indicted. Why would we want to elect a president that shows no respect for the rule of law and apparently will say anything to get the votes of various groups? I think she and the Democrats manipulate blacks. They use blacks. When they have power, they do very little to advance the cause of blacks. When it comes to Donald Trump, I intend to support him because I like his stance against political correctness. I think he is speaking to issues that a lot of Americans care about. And right now, there are very few people that are willing to stand up and push back against the destruction of America. And I think America is being destroyed. It's heading in the wrong direction. And there are very few people on the horizon that are willing to stand up and speak truth. And I think he does speak truth, and I have confidence that he will appoint people that are qualified to lead. And so I am going to support Donald Trump, and I would never, under any circumstances, support a Democrat. I don't see how any Christian could. I'm a Christian, and I would never, ever vote for that party.
Okay, that's provocative.
Wait, I wanted to say something about Hillary. I don't understand.
I think
this
you wrote a
part
book called Godless.
Yes, I did, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Hillary. I thought we'd update it from, Goldwater. And by the way, it does show you that there's nothing you can say against Trump, that we have to go back to the Republican Party of Barry Goldwater. But the Sanders voters over here, I got to tell you, I am so glad it is not Sanders that Trump will be running against, because Sanders would have been so much tougher. He at least talks like Trump. And I would say he is like Trump in the sense, unfortunately, he is bound by the Democratic Party, but he used to be, like Trump, very concerned with immigration. He used to say, we've got to stop this dumping of low-wage workers on the country. I care about low-wage workers. We've got to get their wages up, as did, by the way, Jesse Jackson, Cesar Chavez, Democrat after Democrat. Then they realized, the illegals have anchor babies and they're voting for us. It's working out, coming up roses for us. But if you really care about the working class, you would stop this constant importation. But not only would I have preferred and think that Sanders would be much tougher for Trump, because both of them care about the working class, I mean, even if your life's dream is the first female president, it's so sad that you have to run Hillary. I mean, she could be saying something that she has believed since she was 10 years old, and the audience would sit back and say, come on, you don't really believe that. She is not only an opportunist, but a bad opportunist, and to act like, she was a senator and secretary. No, she got everything she got because who she was married to. She was the first lady of Arkansas. She was the first lady of the country. We are not talking about Claire McCaskill. We're not talking about Dianne Feinstein. Can you name their husbands? No, you can't. I think you can name Hillary's husband. How did she get to run for Senate of New York, which is basically an appointed position? There are all these Democrats like Carolyn McCarthy waiting in the wings, waiting, because once you become senator from New York, it's a job for life as a Democrat. And they were just told, step aside, Hillary's running. So all the Democrats have to step aside, she runs. And whoa, amazing feat, she beat Rick Lazio, whoa! And then Secretary of State actually is an appointed position. We wouldn't even know her name except for who her husband is. I mean, look, run Dianne Feinstein, run Claire McCaskill, run Jean Shaheen. There are impressive women in the Democratic Party. Hillary's not one of them.
Okay, on that note, I'm going to let Sally Kohn
Have a small heart attack.
have a small
one.
30-minute
Don't
rebuttal.
worry.
I do want to open the floor to questions.
Oh, God.
in a little bit.
I mean, yay.
Yay, but I want you to talk first because I think we need to resolve this Hillary question.
I mean, listen.
Let's face it, neither Donald Trump nor Hillary Clinton, neither one has a good record when it comes to veracity. And if you go to any of these
Oh,
fact
false,
checking-
false. Absolutely false.
I'm sorry,
Hillary
what?
is a liar. Trump is a BSer. He'll say, I called 1,000 people when he called 10.
Oh, I didn't realize
There's
there was
no
a difference.
evidence that he
Is it
lies.
called-
Of course there is.
Is it called lying when a woman does it, but BS when a guy does
Yes,
it?
that's what it is,
What?
Sally.
They're the same thing.
Oh, you caught me. No, saying I never sent classified documents through email, that's a lie.
You know what? Listen.
Say,
All right, Sally, go.
no, he's never been caught in a lie. You
pointing at
cannot
you.
say he has any problem with
I
veracity.
mean, well, and incidentally, I'm going to go with the FBI. I'm going to go with the 60,000 pages of documents and 8 hearings Republicans held on Benghazi. But you know what? Republicans still love to bring it up because they're pretty sure she did something wrong, even though their own committees found that she didn't. You know, it is interesting. A thing I will say. And listen, do I think Hillary Clinton is perfect? No, I don't. Do I think Donald Trump is entertaining? I did at first until it got frightening. Right? I did. Dr. Swain, you did refer to qualifications and actual, experience. So it's interesting to me that you're going to then support Donald Trump.
I
will say this about Hillary Clinton.
I'm trusting that he will make wise appointments.
Well, that's fascinating.
He's created 900
I can't even
businesses
trust
that
him to
made
make
billions
wise.
of dollars.
I can't even trust him to send wise tweets. You know.
Yeah, he hasn't done anything.
I
Just
will say
thousands
this
of
about
jobs,
Hillary. I will say this about Hillary Clinton.
900 businesses, billions of dollars. Yeah, that's
And
nothing.
I think he should keep doing that. You know what? Trump nail polish, keep on going.
Okay, but he's done something unlike Hillary.
Let me say who has done things, but let me say. Hillary Clinton's approval ratings, it's worth noting, are significantly greater whenever she's actually in a job. So when she was, when she's running for office, right? Suddenly she's unpopular. She sucks as a candidate, right? She actually does a damn good job of delivering.
Like
and
Libya?
by the way, you want to know
Great Libya.
you want to know who
That was
thinks so,
terrific.
by the way,
world
among
loves
others, was
us
Donald
now.
Trump. Donald Trump also thought she'd
Her
make a good
job as
president. but
Secretary of
whatever,
State
fine.
could not be worse. Libya? Good grief! The entire Middle East is blowing up because of what Hillary
I'm
did.
sorry, I thought that was
and
Iraq.
by the way,
I thought that's 'cause we invaded Iraq.
Obama had to be dragged into that monstrosity in
And
Libya.
it's one
As we
thing
know
to
from
be-
the emails, it was 100% Hillary pushing. We got to go into Libya.
And
gotta
it's
go
one
into
thing to be
Libya. Blow it up.
entertaining, but it's another thing to be fallacious.
Okay,
And
why is that fallacious?
Because
all I'm getting is
listening-
insults from that side while I'm citing facts. So how about
That
a
is
fact
not
sheet?
a fact. That is not a fact. Your Benghazi characterization is not a fact, and I'm not going to spend any more time on it.
I'll spend time on it.
we already
Gaddafi
had
was
eight-
great for us. She
What I
took
would
out
like to
Gaddafi,
spend
and the
time
country
on-
blew up. Those are facts, as opposed to just calling me a name.
Could we relitigate the
I'm
Iraq
not
war
calling
too?
your name. I said that your characterization was fallacious. I didn't call
Okay,
you
then
a
say
name.
why it's fallacious. Again, I'd like facts
it is
instead of
not
name calling.
true. And she
Well,
was
why is it not
cleared-
true? She
was
took out.
cleared
It was
by
her idea to
own
take out
committee.
Gaddafi. We know from the emails that Obama was against it and said, "Are you
talking
sure we
about
should do this?
Gaddafi?
Are you sure
Are
we?"
you talking about emails? Are you just conflating it?
I'm talking about the country of Libya and what we know about Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State, and her involvement in it.
I don't think it's a good idea to take out anybody because we don't.
Well,
want
your
anybody-
Secretary of State did it, and it turned out to be a complete disaster.
Your president got us into all these wars in the first place.
And luckily he's, and by the way, those wars were supported by Hillary Clinton. They were not supported by Donald Trump.
Wait, whoa.
You know,
But maybe you want to go back to Goldwater.
He changed his position
before
on that.
we end on this, I just want to do one very serious thing about Donald Trump for those of us who are New Yorkers who really know Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is the man who took full-page ads in the New York Times to castigate the Central Park boys, who everybody knew were innocent at the time.
They were guilty.
They had already been cleared
They
by
were absolutely
DNA
guilty.
at the time.
Had been
They
cleared
had
by DNA.
already
Okay,
been
this is getting a
cleared
little
by
off track.
DNA. The
I think this is
criminals
getting
they
a little
were
off
cleared
track.
By DNA.
and that's Donald Trump. Donald Trump is also the one who has not only maligned women, but frankly, I'm a little offended. And I started this by talking about what went on this week. When I look at myself and other people in this room, you know, we like to talk about the black community as the community, once again, almost monolithic and proof that we're not, but I don't mean that, I'm not saying that as a joke. Carol is Dr. Carol Swain. She's a woman of achievement. We just disagree.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. So I'm not trying to do anything underhanded there, and I don't want it taken that way. But what I am saying is that as a woman, I know what it means to be shot at by the police, okay? And as a journalist, I know what it means to live not in poor black neighborhoods, but 5 years as a homeowner in Greenwich, years in Westport, years in Wilton, Connecticut, and to have the police stop all of my guests. I know what that means. I know what it means to have my guest dragged out of a car and forced to the ground because he's trying to find an address. But the police decide, this is a black guy we can have a little bit of fun with. Okay? So I don't want to just treat it all as a joke because it is not.
Okay, it's not a joke, and we're not in. You folks are not in this on this panel, and I want to take a minute now to thank thank these wonderful women for their contributions to the conversation. And it's not over yet. I do want to give you all a chance to ask questions if they are. I request that they be civil. And you be respectful.
Now, since Dan is covering this, is there a mic that we need to go to?
Maybe we can repeat the question.
All right, we have somebody over here with a microphone? Okay, so I think your hand went up first. Can we come over here? I can't see a lot of the
could you
hands
turn the
way
lights,
up there.
house lights up, please?
Oh, I see one here as well. Okay, this lady here in the front row was the first.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
My name is Lauren, and I am a businesswoman, and I have been working my whole entire life with my husband. And I just want to know, and I'm not going to tell you who I'm voting for, but I just want to understand how you can wrap your head around this whole entire thing that happened with Hillary, and how she completely and totally lied to the FBI, and she got away with it. I'm not understanding it, and nobody more than me would president to be the first president of the United States. But I sit and I listen to all the hearings, I listen to what James Comey said, and I cannot understand why she is not being indicted, and I need somebody to give me an answer.
All right, carelessness.
Oh my God.
Would you like to answer that?
Well, all I'll say is very briefly, and I'll let the Democrats answer it. I think it's directed to them. But Lauren, I love you too. The only thing I'll say is for people who think that because the FBI didn't bring charges, I would say, as you saw it yourself, read Jim Comey's statement. He was like Jeremiah Denton blinking out the letters torture in that statement. He goes through one thing after another about how careless, negligent, and how she lied, and then says he's not bringing charges, which I was not surprised by Democrats don't indict Democrats, as I've been warning them for a while. But whoa, boy, did he lay out the case. So if you're in doubt, read his full statement.
He was a Bush appointee, but, you know, let's just smear him now as a Democrat when we don't like what he did.
Is
Listen.
this the only candidate in trouble with the government and under indictment?
Right.
Should be indicted?
So first of all,
no, but first
of all, they didn't. Okay, so oh my gosh, we don't have that much time,
She
Lauren,
was
and I would
not
love
under-
to, and I'm so happy to, but no, we don't have that kind of time. But let's be clear. It actually does matter that she wasn't indicted, because let me tell you, if she was indicted, you'd be hearing it from that side of the room, right? So, I mean, the fact that she wasn't indicted is not consequential, but if she had been indicted, you know Republicans would be making hay.
It's a breakdown of the
So
rule
number
of
one.
law.
Number two, well, I mean, it's a breakdown of the rule of law because you didn't get the result you want. Number two, all right, Colin Powell
she got away
did the
with
same
the
thing.
crime.
In fact, arguably, he did so on a less secure server.
I
So,
find this
did she,
boring.
wait a second. Did she make a mistake? Yeah. Did she say it was a mistake? Yeah. Did she, was she less forthcoming than she should have been? Yeah. I don't know. I haven't asked her, right? But the point is, I mean, like, let's look at also, as you said, the candidate who has several lawsuits against him for not just lying, but purposefully defrauding poor people and seniors out of their wages. Like, why is it? And I would like to just make this point.
yeah,
Similarly,
like Whitewater.
why is it? No,
Like
excuse me.
Whitewater, which was
Republicans-
actually
and-
designed
oh my
by
gosh,
Hillary,
you just teed
ripping
me
off
up.
poor people.
That was
with
outstanding.
Whitewater. You name one thing with Donald Trump, it is 10 times worse with Hillary.
I love it
And I would be
because-
I would be very depressed if Hillary had been indicted, because that would probably mean would have to run against Sanders. And as I say, he's a lot tougher of a candidate than Hillary.
I love this because Republicans also, and I know Ann has done this, I don't know if you have, Dr. Swain, but we'll also go back to trying to, quote unquote, morally indict Hillary Clinton for the sins of her husband.
Yes.
Which
No, for her
is
sins.
fascinatingly, I've read your
No,
pieces.
she's scared.
When Trump has been attacked for his misogyny, your response has been to go after Bill Clinton for his. We don't seem to talk about
No,
Trump's
I'm going
lawsuits.
after
We don't
Hillary
seem
for
to talk
spearing
about
his victims.
the women. We don't seem to talk about the women who, in court cases, have said Trump sexually assaulted him. The pending court cases against him. So this double standard of, well, because Trump's a newbie, oh, he doesn't really know what he's doing. Oh, he's just a joke. He's just a, like, this guy could be our president. He has never had to answer
Okay,
serious
I think
foreign
it's-
policy questions. He's managed to.
Wives
It's
whose
pretty
divorce
clear that these
decrees
sides-
say that they can't tell the truth about him.
Right.
Okay,
All right.
ladies. One thing I love about women is that we don't argue with each other. We sit down in circles and resolve issues.
Really?
We would if we were all correct.
All right, we have a question over here.
I want to ask, this fella here had his hand up, and then this one over here is next, I think. I really can't see y'all, I'm sorry. I'll have to let the man with the mic figure it out.
I hate to get away from all this excitement, but I have a policy issue. Now, Sally,
Oh, that's
you're
whizzing to my
really
heart.
bright. You're brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
And
You already
I just
won.
want to know, you talked about Hillary and her job and how successful she
Yes.
is on her job. I'm just curious, aside from Iran, with whom do we have a better relationship during the Hillary Clinton Secretary of State term?
I don't understand the question.
I'm not gonna be able to list a group of countries because it's kind of past my bedtime, but I will say this, that the United States standing in the world, in poll after poll, in most countries, went up during President Obama's tenure and during her tenure as Secretary of State. So, I don't know, the world likes us more to me seems like a pretty good standard. I'm gonna go with
All
that.
right, okay.
Well, I see. So we want to blame, you want to blame, that's fine, you want to blame Russia on Hillary Clinton. I'm curious, when Putin invaded Georgia, and when Putin behaved badly when George W. Bush was president, did you also blame George W. Bush for that? You thought that was like he was being weak, he was projecting weakness into the world, and that's why Putin invaded Georgia, right? Like, I have news for you. Bad people do bad things in the world sometimes, regardless of who is Secretary of State. And it's intriguing to me that we want to hold her responsible for the awful things that happened. When are we going to relitigate the Secretary of Statehood of Condoleezza Rice, who arguably destroyed the stability in the Middle East more than any other Secretary of State?
Supported by
and
Hillary
created-
Clinton, opposed
and-
by Donald Trump.
And created ISIS, and created the groundwork for ISIS. So
Okay,
I'm
next
fine.
question. Next question.
Okay, we have a journalist with a question over
Oh,
here.
good, we like that.
Thank you, Stephen, for
journalists.
that introduction.
You don't need to know. People will figure out. Doesn't matter. My question, since I'm so into... Hey, how you doing? So into polling, is why is it that single young women are among one of the most democratic groups in this country? What are they missing? And I'd love to ask it specifically to the right side of the panel. So what are they missing? Why is it that they are voting for Democratic candidates in such large numbers? I'm sure there's a good reason. And if they are, what would you say to them to try and convince them to come over to your side?
Two things. One is, like I said, it's the 13 years of Chinese-style brainwashing they get from the schools. Young single males are pretty democratic too. And then the other thing is, and your question hints at, but doesn't specifically say, and I think it's worth saying, the gender gap doesn't exist among married women. To the extent there is a gender gap, it is only single, divorced, never married. And, you know, states got women's suffrage at different times than the national government did. So you can see what happens to government when women get the vote. And no matter what year, interestingly, it was mostly Republican states out in the West who gave women the vote first. Whenever women get the vote, whatever the year is, suddenly government spending through the roof, which suggests to me that single women are feeling insecure in the world, that probably because they can have children and need someone to support them. That if they don't have a husband, they turn to the government to be their husbands. Because I promise you all these little programs, preschool care, nursery care, you know, after school care, that is not designed to appeal to John Wayne.
Well, again, it goes back to information. And one of the things, messages, you know, that comes out of research, and I try to share with young people when I talk with them, because we know that in the black community, it's something like 70% of black children are in single-parent households. I try to encourage them, as well as some other people, that if they stay in school, if they don't, you know, have a child out of wedlock, if they get a job, they're less likely to be poor. I think most people want to work. They don't want to be on an entitlement program. With the policies of the Democratic Party that are pushed, I think, on a lot of minorities, I think it keeps them trapped. I believe that within the Republican Party, the programs that I see people volunteering for and working in the prisons and in the schools with young people, it is to empower them so that they can have a middle-class life or working-class life, that they won't be dependent on government. So I think that they tend to vote for the Democrats because they don't know any other way, and they're being misled, and they're being trapped. And there is a way out. There is a way out.
All right, any other questions? Yes, who's saying Kathleen? I like that. Mr. Microphone, can you get to...
Okay, all right, this gentleman here.
Wow. Sorry. There we are.
I'm cheating because I'm in next month's debate. My name is Malcolm, and I'm okay. I have a very, very serious, mellow, harshing question. I've spent 35 years in government and intelligence. My family's been in the military for 110 years since the Civil War. For the people who support Trump, and then followed on by the others. How in God's name? How? And I want to preface that. I have seen in a national command center a full-scale simulated nuclear attack on the United States. I have worked next to nuclear reactors. I have been in close proximity to nuclear weapons. The seriousness of the presidency of the United States for the control of atomic weapons, 7,100 of which, if the president at any time so decides to employ that weapon, there is a non-stop chain of custody which will launch that weapon. How can you prove to me that this man has even the slightest comprehension of the awesome power that he could actually claim that that he would use that on a city like Raqqa, Syria, where he would mass murder 2 million people to get 30,000 terrorists. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think the military would do it. Unlawful orders are just that. So explain to me his rationale based on his jokes and humor that he would have the gravity to control atomic weapons.
Excellent question.
This is just another insult. Oh, I'm so scared of them. For Pete's sake, he's a businessman. He goes into meetings. He's made himself $1 billion. Apparently, oh, you know what? In addition to saying, you can't be serious, the fake laughter is also very effective argument. I'm citing, again, facts. Hang on. He's obviously is a serious person. Just because someone can be funny, I mean, for Pete's sake, we're sitting in a comedy club. You think this idea that people can't be funny or behave in one way? I talk differently to my mother than I do to my boyfriends, than I do when I'm giving a speech, than I do when I'm speaking to different audiences. So he's funny and entertaining. That's great. The idea that he's going to fly off the handle.
Well, wait a minute.
You're just being babies about this. He's obviously a serious person who engages with a lot of serious people and has built a lot of buildings and made a lot of money. And I think I would trust that more than the person who voted to go into Iraq and the person who blew up Libya, pushing Obama into the biggest foreign policy disaster of his administration. Gaddafi was George Bush's bitch after the Iraq War. That was the one thing, among the other things, that we totally got out of it. Gaddafi went rushing to Blair, to the British intelligence forces, and said, is he going to invade me next? He called in the UN weapons of mass destruction inspectors. He paid each one of the Lockerbie families $8 million apiece. Gaddafi was fine, but Hillary wants a feather in her cap. So she takes out Gaddafi for fun, and that's what you have, that whole refugee crisis into Europe now. Gaddafi had always said to Europe, really? You want to take me out? Wait until you see what I unleash. That happens to be an answer to the question. I know you guys think it's so clever to shout out answer the question.
Okay,
the question is about foreign policy. The question is about foreign policy and who handled it better. Who would handle it better? Hillary made a mess of it. Donald Trump was on the right side of these issues, and he's a serious businessman. Answer the question.
Okay, here I will answer the question. I think President Trump himself will be a deterrent because right now we are not feared, we're not respected. We need someone that has the element of unpredictability.
Well, that's what they said about George.
I'm sorry. I just need, I'm sorry.
Now we'll get it.
But you know what's fascinating to me is I am old enough to remember 2008. And I remember conservatives and Republicans crowing about how Barack Obama wasn't qualified
And
to
he's
be
proven
president.
that. He has proven that.
So it is interesting to me, the sort of relative standard. Oh, he's a businessman, so he'll do the right thing. Oh, he'll appoint the right people. Oh, we can trust that he won't, tweet nasty, insulting things to heads of state the way he, this whole sort of faith-based, I guess voting for Trump is a faith-based initiative in its own way. Right? And listen, I disagree with Hillary Clinton on a set of foreign policy issues. Part of the reason I was reluctant and still have concerns about her is she is more hawkish than I. So I'm not going to go to toe-to-toe with you on some of her foreign policy decisions. But I will say, I may not always agree with the outcome she makes, but at least I know she's thinking. At least I know she knows what she's talking about. At least I know she has an opinion and isn't going
Libya.
to
I'm sorry, you guys can't just act like Libya can be put into a box. That was her one foreign policy initiative, and it was a complete disaster.
All right, next question. We're going to move on.
Okay, let's way in the
back
back here.
Are y'all having fun?
These two guys
You
over
seem
here.
like you're having fun.
Well, they're drinking. Can we
It's
have a
great.
drink up here?
Where are we looking?
Kathleen, which
All right.
gentleman?
Oh my God!
The fellow with the glasses.
Can we auction these bids off? I mean, can we
Everyone has something to say. This group
Did
over
you
here,
forget
guys
your
are the most
question?
disrespectful people in the world. I just want to point that out. Regardless of what you think, and regardless of what side of left or right that you're on, you guys have just been incredibly disrespectful the entire time.
Question.
And now my question. It's for Dr. Swain, but I'd like kind of to get a voice from everyone here. So Dr. Swain, you mentioned a number of times in your various responses, you mentioned the Bible, you mentioned Christianity, and I just want to get your view as a Jewish kid from New York. And I'm sure that there are people with, other religions. How can you put into a reason why you are voting, you sit on this side of the aisle, and why you support certain things you do based on religion, and how that's not supposed to alienate myself as someone who's doesn't consider myself religious, as well as other people with other religions. And, it would just be great to get your view on it.
Well,
and
okay.
woman is the worst person in the world.
Okay. First of all, I understand and I appreciate your question. And for me, I identify as a Christian more than I identify as a conservative. I'm unhappy with both political parties, but I live in America. I had to make a choice, and I chose the Republican Party because it is the party that's most pro-family. I believe it is the family, it is the political party that defends the Constitution. And we do have Judeo-Christian traditions that have undergirded this nation, and the Judeo refers to Jewish. And there are many Jewish people that are conservative and are becoming conservative. And as far as whether or not you find my views offensive, I can't divorce my religious beliefs from who I am. I don't put that in the closet. You don't have to agree with me. But as a Christian, I could not support a political party that goes against the basic tenets of my faith.
Okay, we've got some people over on this side of the room, I think.
Yes, I would. And a lot of people debate whether or not Donald Trump is a Christian. Yeah. We don't have a religious test for president in this country. I would vote for him because he loves America, and I believe he would do the right thing for Americans.
Do you think Hillary Clinton doesn't love America? I'm just curious.
I think she hates America.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you.
It's not worth the answer.
No, I'm not kidding
you know what, this is fitting, I will just say this is fitting, then that you're supporting a presidential candidate who was one of the people leading the charge, suggesting not only that President Obama hates America, but that he may not even be a citizen, and he isn't a Christian. By the way, which a majority of Republicans now believe, thanks to Donald Trump.
Look what President Obama has done to America. He's undermined the rule of law. He hasn't shown respect for separation of powers and the basic constitutional tenets.
By the way, I can make the same argument about George W. Bush, but I would not have said he hates America. I would have never questioned his patriotism, and I'm sorry. But
George Bush gave you less reason
I'm curious,
to do so.
do you think that do you think I hate America?
No, I really like you. And I think you're a person of good intentions, just like I'm a person of good intentions, and we need to have more dialogue.
Excellent. I also believe President Obama is a person of good intentions, and I'm glad we cleared that up.
I think so.
Okay, we have a question from... Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for everyone who's sitting on this panel right now. I have seen Ann on TV. I've seen Sally on TV. I respect the position that you guys are all coming from right now. But what I'm having a failure of understanding is how is it that you can't hold each candidate to the same standard? So in other words, how is it that you're able to excuse Donald Trump for all of his indiscretions, yet lambaste Hillary Clinton for all of hers, just under the guise of he's being funny, right? We're talking about a man who has no political background. He's effectively had no political backing.
That's a strength.
Not really. If you seize fundraising records, right? So how is it that you can justify being for Donald Trump without the background necessary or the rigor necessary for him to become president?
For one thing, I agree. I think we should have the same measuring stick, and I think we very much do not have the same measuring stick. I mean, Donald Trump has answering, still talking. Donald Trump was asked, approximately 117 times to disavow someone he had never met, never referred to, had no contact with, David Duke. He disavows it 116 times. The 117th time, he does the famous WASP blow-up. Yeah, I didn't really hear you. I don't know who he is. He's disavowed it. Meanwhile, you have Hillary Clinton actively endorsing Black Lives Matter, seeking the endorsement of Al Sharpton. As far as I know, David Duke has never, still talking. David Duke has never given a speech where people end up getting beaten up or stabbed in Crown Heights.
Are you out of your mind?
And yet, Hillary Clinton is not asked to disavow Al Sharpton. So if you want the same standard,
David Duke
I would
is a
love the same
Klansman.
standard.
Did you just equate?
David Duke was the head of America's terrorist organization.
Oh yeah, which no one dies in. And
I'm sorry, what?
Donald Trump has nothing to do with him.
No one died because
Hillary's hanging with Al Sharpton and Black Lives Matter.
And you're going
Black
to
Lives Matter
equate the Ku
protests
Klux
just resulted in
Klan
11
with Al
cops being
Sharpton?
shot in Dallas. Are we going to ask Hillary to disavow the shooter of 11 cops in Dallas?
She did.
And I'm not going to answer you because I really just can't believe that even you believe that you can equate Al Sharpton with David Duke and the Ku Klux Klan.
You're right. No one has died from a speech that David Duke gave. He's some irrelevant nobody
No,
who comes
they
up
died
every
from the
4 years
actions that he
in order
took.
to taunt Republicans
This
as if
is
he has
not
his own
worthy.
show on
This
Fox
is not
News, as Al Sharpton does on MSNBC, when people are getting stabbed and beaten up and stores set on fire after Al Sharpton gives a speech.
It bears mentioning, just so to clear it up, that while Al Sharpton and the Black Lives Matter movement, by the way, they're not the same thing, but you know,
but people die a lot.
Stand for, yeah, that's right. People are dying because of police violence, and that is why the Black Lives Matter movement exists, is to support nonviolence.
That wasn't what killed 5 cops in Dallas.
And the equality of all people. And as last I
Including
checked,
cops?
David
And
Duke,
Black
yes,
Lives
and
Matter
last I
did
checked,
not shoot 5 police officers. So let's just cut the
Last-
nonsense.
Did
and
David
last
Duke
I-
shoot
and
5
last-
police officers?
and last I
Nobody
checked,
dies
The
around
Ku
the David
Klux
Duke
Klan
Okay.
has done enough.
Yeah,
And
I think it's,
If you're going to be the head of that organization, you have to be responsible for it. Well, somebody said,
Okay, all right. So I think when we start defending the KKK,
it's over the
we're
edge.
getting a little off course.
But defending the shooting
I
of
wanna
cops, I suppose, is fine.
no one is defending the shooting of cops, including Black Lives Matter,
Well, I
which
believe
condemned
I
the
was just
shooting.
accused
And
of defending the KKK, Catherine.
you equivocated.
I
the KKK
believe
and
I
Black
was
Lives
just
Matter.
accused of defending the KKK. No, I didn't.
All right, well, I don't want to mischaracterize you, but you were saying that there was some kind of comparable being offered here, that the KKK, that no one
Why
has died.
should Donald Trump be asked to denounce
I don't-
David Duke, who is someone he's never met, never referred to, does not say, I respect their work. That's what Hillary says about Black Lives Matter. Are you telling me Black
I don't
Lives
think
Matter
you
doesn't
can-
have
there's no
members who
equivalence
support
between
cop
KKK
killing? Because they do.
The issue you're okay.
They all meet with Al
Okay,
Sharpton.
halt.
His speeches lead to stabbings of Hasidic Jews in Crown Heights, lead to Freddie's store being set on fire, and what was it, 3 or 4 people dying in Harlem. Reporters being beaten up. That hasn't even happened.
And the
David
pro-life-
Duke.
and the pro-life
Republicans are
movement.
not kissing David Duke's ring. They are not coming to meet with him the way Democrats have to meet with Al Sharpton. That's the common yardstick I'm asking for.
Al Sharpton should be in jail.
All right, everybody, shush. I would use stronger language if this were not being filmed. I think it's time for some of us to go home and go to bed. It's time for others of us to have a drink.
Time for a drink, everybody.
One more question?
One more question. It's a lottery.
I can say.
Last question, everybody.
Wow.
Better be good. A woman is going to speak, so silence.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name's Kirsten, and thank you for this excellent conversation. I find value in both sides. I'm a 27-year-old young woman, and so I'm a millennial young woman. I consider myself kind of a conservatarian, so someone who's more conservative in fiscal issues and more liberal in social issues, even though I see the value. I obviously love the pro-life movement. But my question is looking at the future of conservatism in this country, and whether, Ann and Dr. Swain, you agree with it or not, young millennial women are much more socially liberal, even if they can be convinced on the economic issues. So my question is, with Donald Trump, because I care a lot about the future of both parties, and I think both offer value to this society. I say, so for young women, how, we had this opportunity before Donald Trump came along as the nominee to say we can bring women into this party, we can bring people of diversity into this country, we can really think of the future, because under fives in this country are majority minority, meaning we're going to have to deal with a lot of diversity in the future. So how can conservatism rebound after the nomination of Donald Trump and make sure that they are a party about more than just white people, because that is the reality whether we like it or not, and make sure that conservatism, because it has a tremendous amount of value in the political discussion, I totally believe that. How can we make sure that we continue to bring something to the table that's not just Donald Trump, but is more and can bring and cannot just shut people off?
We only want Donald Trump. He's
but what about
expanded.
the future? What about the future?
He's
I care about the
expanded the
future.
vote far beyond what the Republican Party was. What are you talking about? We just got a candidate who got more votes than any Republican in history. Well, how do we move past this? No, I think we want to embrace this. And if what you're worried about is millennials being more socially liberal, or rather, socially liberal and fiscally conservative, I mean, the whole attack on Republicans installing a theocracy, I don't think it's going to work with Donald Trump.
Well, one of the things, first of all, I appreciate your statement as a millennial, and I believe, did I say that wrong? Okay, I'm sorry.
Millennial. Yeah.
It's late.
Yeah.
Later than we're supposed to be here. But I think that one reason why so many young people that consider themselves, that are in the Republican Party, that they are becoming socially liberal, is what's being taught on university campuses, the political correctness and the pressures on conservatives to liberalize their views. And I think that the Republican Party should stay true to its principles, the classical liberalism, the limited government, individual responsibility, respect for the Constitution, and the rule of law, and that we will all thrive if we protect and defend the traditional liberal values that have given the Republican Party, that made it different in the past. And I think it's a mistake for Republicans to try to become like Democrats. And there's a lot of pressure from people that have gone into the party, and maybe some of them went into the Republican Party to change it. But those individuals, I think, if you don't like what the Republicans are offering, then maybe you should return to the Democratic Party, or maybe the Democratic Party.
We'll take you. Can I just? Sorry, were you finished? I was just joking. We'll take you, but we will take them. We'll take you.
Yeah, and there are probably some people in the Democratic Party that are getting frustrated and realizing that the Democratic Party doesn't have their best interests, and we'll take them too.
So can I just make an observation, which is this week, Two observations. This week, the Republican Party platform debate is going on, and for the first time ever, apparently in history, there is an openly gay member of the Republican Platform Committee, which I happen to think is friggin' fantastic. That platform committee member introduced a measure in the platform saying not that the Republican Party should actually support marriage equality, that would be a bridge too far, got that, but she said that simply recognizing, acknowledging that there is a diversity of opinion within the Republican Party with respect to marriage equality, and it was voted down. That simple. 60% of millennials, self-identified evangelical millennials, support marriage equality. So you do that math, and good luck with that. The other thing I want to say is, I'm sorry, but you have a party, and it is disturbing to me because I actually did think the Republican Party was moving beyond social conservatism, and I thought this was a positive thing, and that no longer seems to be the case, and that disturbs me and saddens me deeply. The other thing I'll say is I am so tired of the attacks on political correctness, because when I grew up, I was taught it was just treating people with respect.
That's it.
And now suddenly we bash that, but that to me, political correctness, that's all it is.
So do you think it's appropriate for students to shout down conservative speakers and not allow them to speak on college campuses?
I do not. I do not, but that is also called free speech. So I support their ability to do it.
No, but that's what political correctness has led to.
No, ma'am, you're attacking the edges.
I work on college campuses. I know what takes place, and I know what conservative students tell me what they encounter in the classroom, and it's a hostile environment for conservatives and for
anti-war
Christians
students
on college
experienced in the
campuses.
60s and 70s.
But
it's not unique to. It is unique to the political times in which we're living.
I know, but I mean,
I'm not. I'm fervently in favor of free speech, but I think that attacking political correctness is anti-free speech. It's saying, oh no, don't
there's
say when something is offensive
more
or bothersome.
intolerant these days than the political left. There's nothing more intolerant than the political left.
All right, I'm going to let these...
Anybody heard Trump speak lately? I'm going to disagree with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Kathleen, would you like one more question or go
Well,
to
there's
closing
one
statements?
hand is just illuminated out there, and it's up to the panelists if they're willing to go one more.
One more.
Hi, my name is Alana. I was in the armed forces. I served in the Army for about 10 years. And I interrogated, and I was an interrogator, and I interrogated numerous people who, as I perceived them, they did not appreciate it when the American government was perceived as attacking them as a general whole. From what I have seen in statements made from Donald Trump, this is what is happening. It is, we're going to build a wall, they're going to pay for it, we're going to have this all constructed. That, to me, is what is going to turn more people against us. I have sat across the table from them, I have been attacked by them, and I have ultimately made connections with people who hate women, who hate everything about us. Well, when I'm sitting there, yes.
Question.
What is your question?
The question is, how are you going to defend comments such as that groups of people together and say that he is going to make this country any safer than it is? Because I can assure you it will not.
Well, I know there's a strong... I know there's a
Be
strong...
quiet over there. Please, y'all be quiet.
A strong impulse, and one of the interrogators who said, oh yes, all we had to do was give the Muslim we were interrogating a cookie and he spilled everything. I know there is that argument, but the argument Donald Trump is, it seemed pretty frisky and bold to me, even letting in 2 million of them since 9/11. So why are we going to keep letting them in after Orlando, after San Bernardino? It's insane that we are continuing to let people in and hoping that some of the ones who come in will help us with the terrorists. Well, I have an idea. Stop bringing terrorists in. Trump doesn't want to be going around starting wars. I'm happy that we're getting back to to a Republican position, that we're not going, I mean, the position of the rest of my party, other than Trump, and the Democratic Party is, instead of doing something hard, like not bringing terrorists in, let's do something easy, like remake the entire Middle East, invade Libya, Syria, Russia, create Jeffersonian democracies all over the world. No, how about we just don't let them in and assimilate the ones who are already here? That's the argument that makes us safer, and so it's pretty popular now.
As we said, Donald Trump attracts David Duke, and it's the Ku Klux Klan that proposed the initial immigration policy.
Trump has nothing to do with
the immigration policy of the United States as we've had it in the 20th century was proposed and put forth by the Klan. It had the white people were the most desirable, and as you got darker, you became less desirable. The point isn't whether or not it happens to be true, and just look it up.
It has nothing to do with Trump.
It has everything to do with someone who's putting forth
I'm
ideas.
the expert on the KKK
and
immigration.
You're not the only expert on the KKK, but he's putting out ideas that are going to force us to defend the indefensible. It is in no one's interest but that segment of people to support the ideas he has put forth. It's not in anybody else's best interest, so it is going to create international strife.
All right, Sally, last word. Final word.
No, I mean, you don't have to believe us. You can just talk to counterterrorism experts who've said that demonizing Muslims creates more enemies than I mean, that's it.
Or John McCain, who did not agree with those interrogations.
Remind me to buy you all a drink later. I think you could use one.
All right,
Okay,
I have to,
so it is important to know that, first of all, my ancestors came to this country when there weren't immigration laws. So this whole, they got in line, they followed the rules. When my ancestors came, we didn't actually have any rules. We didn't have any lines. We let people in. Right. That was because they looked different, or they looked like what we think Americans should look like. I don't know. And I think that's wrong, and I think it violates the spirit of our country. It is worth noting, if you don't know it, sorry for you over there, but this is a fact, that 1 in 2 terrorism plots in this country have been foiled by tips from the Muslim community. When we alienate Muslims, we are doing a disservice. And I would also note that we have a serious problem of white men taking guns and shooting up places in this country, but we don't seem to profile them. Nobody seems to recommend we stop letting them come into the country.
Yes, Donald Trump does in his immigration policy paper, a total immigration moratorium as we had from 1924 to 1965, which was the most prosperous period in American history. Why? Because we weren't bringing in workers. Like I say, let's wait until every 2 jobs we create will bring in 1 low-wage immigrant or 1 immigrant.
That's not why
you wouldn't have Muslim plots to disrupt if you weren't bringing in Muslim immigrants. So great, some of them will help us.
Any Muslims in the room?
The most prosperous for whom? When you are limiting the wages of women, when you are forcing people of color into demeaning situations that you don't have to pay them for. Prosperous era for whom?
All right, we're going to let Dr. Swain, Dr. Swain is asked to speak for a minute about Black Lives Matter, and then I want to ask everyone here to have a cocktail, and we're going to. I thought we should have a vote on what we've discussed here tonight. Okay.
Well, the Klan has come up. The KKK has come up. Black Lives Matter. In 2002, I published a book with Cambridge Press called "The New White Nationalism in America: Its Challenge to Integration." And in that book, I talked about a set of conditions that were converging to create a devil's brew for racial unrest. There are people that are white and black, that in the white community and in the black community, that would love to see a race war in America. I think Black Lives Matter and the tactics of that group are contributing to an unstable environment. I think race relations have never been worse, and that if you really want to improve race relations in America, you have to move away from the identity politics and try to go back to American national ideals and the things that unite us rather than divide us.
And now you know why Vanderbilt University got upset.
Yes. For the
Because
record,
she
I'm
had-
upset too.
Yeah. So I do think we need to wrap it up. It's been a lot of fun. I think it's been interesting. We've had some very provocative remarks made from both sides. I don't know that we resolved the question of whether conservatism is hostile to women, but I think we...
But we decided some of the audience members here are. No.
But we did learn that women are not all alike, and that and they don't just sit in circles and sing Kumbaya, and they actually do care a lot about the issues that matter to all of us. And what a healthy world we live in, a country we live in, when we can have these differing ideas. And I don't think anybody's going to get shot tonight, so that's good.
Oh,
so who's gonna win the election?
It's a weird note to end on, but okay.
Well, I mean, the bar is pretty low these days, I have to admit. Let's end on a higher note. Go ahead, Sally.
No, I'm good. Just you go. Keep going, Parker. You just roll it up.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but it's way past my bedtime. So who's going to win the election? By applause in this room, and just being obnoxious doesn't count. Donald Trump. I've just disinherited my niece. And Hillary Clinton. All right, we'll go to the Upper East Side and take another vote.
That was awesome. Okay. All right.
Strictly for fun.
It was funny.
All right.
Wait, what?
Good night, everybody.
Oh, good night.
Good night.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Do you know where we go? Oh my gosh!
Watch C-SPAN's live coverage of the Republican National Convention